Hello, folks. Thanks for clicking on my video and listening to what I have to say. There is a new PSYOP out that everybody needs to know about. What seems to be going on is the DOJ is trying to discredit sources of information that they don't like, and they always do this. There's an article from CNN titled DOJ alleges Russia funded U.S. media company linked to right wing social media stars. And if you go down past the authors and look at the three pictures, we've got Dave Rubin on the left. He works for The Blaze. I believe he's actually gay and married to a man, and they've adopted a child. So, right off the bat, I'm going to point out the fact that these folks are homophobes because they don't like Dave Rubin. Turnabout's fair play. In the middle, we have Benny Johnson. He has a large following on YouTube. He is slightly to the right of center, but he also disagrees with the narrative, the message, as it's often called, and they don't like that. And then there is Tim Pool on the right. Tim Pool is also on YouTube, and he's famous for wearing his beanie, and he has an enormous audience on YouTube. He has a talk show, and he's had guests on, and he hashes through to find the truth, and he is very, very popular. Now, the article goes on and it mentions a lot of legal buzzwords that, try to get your attention, to get you hooked into their article so you'll believe their message that they're peddling. And some of these buzzwords are grand jury and indictment. I thought it would be prudent to just kind of hit up the definitions of a grand jury and definition of an indictment. But a grand jury is a panel of citizens, usually 18 to 24 citizens, that is brought together by a prosecutor of some sort who is spoken to by the prosecutor, and the prosecutor goes over evidence with the grand jury. And what the grand jury does with the information given to them by the prosecutor is decide whether or not to hand down an indictment. An indictment is a charging document. It says whether the prosecutor is able to go ahead and prosecute a person or not prosecute a person. Anyway, that an important part of the article that I saw, I wanted to share with you word for word. Starts out, the goal of the operation, according to prosecutors, was to fuel pro-Russian narratives, in part by pushing content and news articles favoring Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump and others who the Kremlin deemed to be friendlier to its interests. Let's stop right there. It wants to imply that Donald Trump is somehow friendly to the Kremlin's interests. This after we've been told by Kash Patel that Donald Trump threatened Vladimir Putin with a nuclear weapon directed at him personally. if Vladimir Putin were to invade Ukraine on Donald Trump's watch. And if you remember, Vladimir Putin waited until Donald Trump was out of office before he made a move on Ukraine. Anyway, the article goes on. Among the commentators listed on Tenet Media's website are right-wing personalities. Benny Johnson. He's not that right-wing. He's not extreme right-wing. He's to the right of center, but I don't believe he's as right-wing as they seem to paint him as. Then they add in Tim Pool, who I believe is actually to the left of center. You need to go on YouTube and make judgment for yourself. He has discussions all the time, and you can kind of flesh out where he is politically. And Dave Rubin, he's the commentator from The Blaze that I mentioned earlier, married to another man, and I believe they have children. Anyway, all have released statements saying that they were the victims of the alleged Russian scheme, and they maintained editorial control of the content they created. So basically, they didn't do anything different than what they were already doing. Wednesday's indictment outlined how the American social media stars were hired by Tenet Media. Dun, dun, dun. Some of the creators were told the project was being bankrolled by a man named Edward Gregorian. In truth and fact, the indictment reads, Gregorian was a fictional persona. So, if the indictment's saying that Gregorian was a fictional persona, and let's be clear, grand juries operate in secret, how are these creators supposed to know that Gregorian was a fictional persona? Anyway, the indictment outlines how one of the social media stars was approached by Tenet Media's founder with an offer of $2 million a year to make videos for the company. One of the founders later wrote, it would need to be closer to $5 million yearly for him to be interested, according to the indictment. So Tenet Media's people were talking about how much money they should offer these creators. Now, this is aimed at the creators because they want you to think that they're just a bunch of Russian bots. They're not Russian bots. They don't know, as far as I can tell in this indictment, they don't seem to know anything about Russia. Keep in mind that the information fed to the grand jury is only coming from one source or side, and that would be the prosecutor. And the prosecutors in the Biden administration, who seem to have wanted this investigation to go forward, are very anti-Trump. If you remember the Mueller probe from Trump's first term, the last Russiagate scandal, and how they spent millions of dollars, they had prosecutors, they had FBI agents, other investigators, other lawyers, making Donald Trump the most investigated man in American history. Then they finally got the Mueller report in front of Congress, and it turned out that the entire Steele dossier was a work of fiction. Anyway, we're still waiting for actual proof that the Russians favor one side or the other in American elections. The Russians don't have money right now. They're in the middle of a war that they're not doing well in. And they're under sanctions. They are being able to beat the sanctions a little. They have friends in India, friends in China that are letting money trickle in, but they need to feed their people and they need to keep their army going. So, as far as how much money they're going to have to spend on silly election interference garbage that's going to get them nowhere, I don't. Oh well. You take that and come up with your own opinion. Anyway, part of the article. The DOJ's revealing of the alleged Russian plot was part of a wider set of actions the Biden administration announced Wednesday it was taking to tackle major Russian backed effort to influence the 2024 presidential election, including sanctions on 10 individuals and entities and the seizure of 32 internet domains. Wow, those war sanctions are really working great, Joe. Okay. At Russian President Vladimir Putin's direction, 3 Russian companies used fake profiles to promote false narratives on social media. U.S. Deputy General Lisa Monaco said in the statement, that is so dumb. Okay. We have fake narratives on social media. No. The only fake narratives here are the ones being perpetrated by CNN, the Justice Department, and other unelected bureaucrats that run this country. If it's a narrative on American social media where wide swath of the public gathers, like, oh, I don't know, X/Twitter, those narratives are going to be looked at and either they're going to be corroborated or they're going to be shot down. Anyway, going on, internal documents produced by one of those Russian companies show one of the goals of the propaganda effort was to boost the candidacy of Donald Trump or whoever emerged as a Republican nominee for president, according to an FBI affidavit. Okay, we have a partisan FBI agent who signed an affidavit saying that the Democrats are just being put upon and they're not responsible for how bad they're doing. Ugh. The excuse making, if they're that bad, they shouldn't want to be in politics. You know, find a job besides trying to run the country. And yes, this is a psyop. These broadcasters seem to be going along and someone offered them money to do what they were already doing. And if you're Tim Pool, you're making content day in, day out, you have millions of viewers on YouTube and possibly other places. Then somebody comes along and says, well, we'd like to take some of your content and post it on our website. Here's $2 million. So how's Tim Pool supposed to know there's some big spy scandal underneath all that? I didn't see anywhere that the broadcasters changed any of the information that they were already putting out or that they were asked to surrender editorial control. These three gentlemen that they listed, I'm sure there are other YouTubers they're trying to finger, but these three gentlemen, if you walk up to them and say, um, we need you to change this message and change that in your other video and fix this and do that, they're going to look at you like, get out of my face, go away. I'm already doing well enough. I don't need your money. Just leave me alone. But anyway, what these broadcasters really did wrong was to be correct and honest in their reporting. That's how you grow an audience. This is what makes the American people difficult to control too, because if the American people can find out what's really going on through these gentlemen, then the unelected bureaucrats find the American people more difficult to manage. By disagreeing with the message and not just shutting up, the broadcasters seem to have run afoul of the unelected bureaucrats who really run the world. What is really going on? The unelected bureaucrats don't seem to have the confidence that the American people will vote the way they believe that the American people should vote, or they're instructing them to vote. Therefore, they need to find an electorate who will vote for their policies and candidates. So, since Donald Trump's name has been dragged through this article, I thought I'd put in a snippet from Donald Trump, a post on Truth Social. Basically, the former president is asking Congress to pass a piece of legislation called the SAVE Act. To my knowledge, the SAVE Act is a piece of legislation that discourages non-citizens from voting in American elections. If I'm an American citizen. I have a right to vote, and I have a right for my vote to count against other American citizens. I do not need my right abridged by a bunch of illegal aliens voting and basically discounting my vote by voting the opposite of how I vote. It's supposed to be my decision. And the same for everybody listening to this. Your vote is supposed to be your decision. You don't need it to be fixed by having two illegal aliens vote against your interests. And like I said, the Democrats, they need an electorate who will vote for them. And if they really did care about election interference, they would pass that SAVE Act. They would also require ID when you show up to vote. ID that shows that you're an American citizen when you go to vote. And there are a lot of other election reforms we need to make sure we have true, just, fair, legal elections. But that's not what the Democrats want. The Democrats just want power. And if we don't get the voting system straightened out, then we don't have a real democracy. Anyway, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for listening to my rambling and my opinions. Please follow me on YouTube, and please follow me on Rumble. Thank you much. Bye.